it's Hilly and Hannah
from The Hillywood Show.
and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome everyone to Mark Who 42, and guess what? We are in the world of tomorrow, in the future, because we have finally reached the 21st century in our trip through the decades with pop culture that we like. We've done 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and here we are in the 2000s. And by the way, by that I mean 2000 to 2009, because we're going decade by decade. So yeah, sorry, there's going to be some stuff that we won't cover, at least not today. But hey, meanwhile, this is your host, Eduardo M. Fryer, and with me is the Pam to my Jim Halpert.
Patricia Fryer.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm trying to figure out, well, we'll find an off... I'm sorry, say what?
I am not Stanley.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, who are you?
Good question. It's a mix of is Dwight and the PR guy.
The PR guy?
Yes. The one that freaking I forget his name.
Wait, PR or HR?
HR. There we go.
You're not the HR guy.
It's a mix
You're
of
not the HR
guy
guy from the office. Now, really, what's your birth name?
My birth name is Zion.
There we go. See, yeah, I don't. You are definitely not Toby. You are not Toby. You are not Stanley, and you're not Toby. We'll figure this out, though. We will figure this out, though. Okay, we'll table that for now. We'll figure it out as we keep going.
Eddie, who would Mark
yes.
be if Mark was here?
He would be Toby. He would be Toby. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark. I know. Mark right now is trying to explore somewhere off the Pacific. He says there's an island there, but I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, I think Mark would be Toby. He's definitely a Toby. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark, because you're not. I don't think he's not an Oscar. He's not Oscar. He's not the Temp. He's not Ryan. He's also not Stanley. He's not Phyllis. He's not Meredith.
He's not Michael? You don't think he's Michael?
No. He's I don't think he's shallow enough to be Michael.
Probably right, yeah.
But you know what? But we'll see. We're talking something that we're going to be talking in the second half, because that's when we're doing TV. Because right now we're doing music, and just want to say right now, sorry for anybody who's like a fan of contemporary music. None of this stuff is going to be auto-tuned. We're not an auto-tune podcast. We don't do the auto-tune thing. We want our singers not to sound like robots. Unless we're talking about Styx doing Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. But that was back in the 80s. We're in the 2000s. So with that, Trish, hit me with your three.
Oh, this was actually hard because, I'm not really big on most music. But if I had to, and I know that some people don't really like the song, but maybe it's because I didn't really listen to a lot of contemporary music in the time. Maybe this is why this song that a lot of people find annoying, but that I still actually really like to hear, and that is Single Ladies by Beyonce.
Okay.
I actually like that song.
All right.
I think it's got a good beat. You could dance to it.
And not to mention that it's it was used in a very funny sketch on SNL. So
true.
Very good music video.
Yes,
Yeah.
nice. The video's good too.
Which again inspired the SNL sketch.
Yes.
So all right. That's no. That's fine. Okay. What else?
Well, I did have to pull one off of a soundtrack because, I'm all about soundtracks, and this is going to just sound really strange to some people, but I really like the song Christmas is All Around by Billy Mack from Love Actually.
You know what? Nope. Definitely. I mean, first of all, I think we established last episode that it is, one of the best romantic comedies and, holiday movies ever. And yeah, that song plays a big part in it. Not to mention it's hilarious, that opening scene where he's recording the song.
It is.
Not going to repeat it because this is a family show.
Yes. No.
Sorry. Go see, watch the movie. Watch the movie and see the scene.
Yes.
And if you're underage, okay, remember, depending on how young you are, the language he's using is mommy and daddy language. You don't use it. You're not allowed to use it. No.
Just
No.
remember what Uncle Billy says.
You can't do that either. Okay. Number 3, Trish.
Yeah, mine is very eclectic. White and Nerdy by Weird Al Yankovic.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no,
That's a funny one.
Definitely, no.
I love that song, and the video is hysterical.
Well, it's got Donny. Isn't Donny Osmond?
Donny Osmond. He's
the
like
backup
the
singer.
ultimate. He's the ultimate white nerd, and he's his backup dancer.
Backup dancing.
It's
Yeah,
perfect.
Yep, there you go. No, see, so there you go. No, it's. Hey, we will count it. Oh wow, but yeah, no, definitely eclectic. Yes, bad. No, good list. Zion.
Yeah.
And please tell me none of that stuff is auto-tuned, because I just said we didn't do auto-tune. Please do not make me a liar.
Oh no, it is on the backward side.
Okay.
Okay, so first I'm going to go with the entirety of the early Linkin Park, from Hybrid Theory to Minutes to Midnight.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
Everything
All right, so
that they made back
we're doing
then.
a catalog. Nice.
Yes. Hybrid Theory is a game changer, at least from my eyes, because back then there was not really much mix between like a rap sense with rock, and Linkin Park literally meshed the two and made it something that no one really expected to like, but ended up everyone really liking. Like in the end, whenever that song comes on, I feel like I have to like throw a car. It just gets me that pumped.
So it's making you Superman on the cover of Action Comics #1?
Yes.
You're lifting the car up and everybody's like, what? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, just those 3 albums, Hybrid Theory, Meteora, and Minutes to Midnight, are just really, really good. Also, harking back to our previous episode, when What I've Done came on at the end of the first Transformers movie, it literally blew my mind. And now thinking back at it, it's like, wow, that's the ultimate 2000s moment for me. You got the first Transformers movie and one of the best 2000s bands in the one movie that really made my childhood a childhood. So yeah, it's just really cool there.
Okay. All right. What is number 2?
Number 2 is System of a Down. Again, all of those albums, Toxicity, Mesmerize, Hypnotize, like those albums was almost on perpetual replay and back and forth, just on and on and on throughout me going through hallways in high school and middle school, and just with great, amazing sound and honestly weird lyrics, but the instrumentals and just the sound of the lead singer just made everything just correct. And it's still one of those bands that I still really would like to see in person.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
All right. Let's see. That brings us up to number 3, doesn't it?
Yeah. And 3 is a song, and is Bring Me to Life by Evanescence.
Ooh.
I feel like if we're talking about 2000s, I can't dodge this song, because this song is just one of those those pinnacle songs, at least in my opinion, of the 2000s, especially since it was in the Daredevil movie.
Okay, yeah, I was about to ask. Yeah, it's that song that's playing while Jennifer Garner's Elektra is practicing, right?
Yes, wake me up, wake me up inside, yeah, wake up,
Yep.
wake me up and save me. Yeah, just like that song, along with like the other two artists I added, like pretty much made up every AMV back in the early 2000s. If you had a Naruto AMV or Dragon Ball Z AMV, it had at least one song from those three artists. And at least in my opinion, that those three artists made the 2000s music what it is for me.
Yeah, wow, that is, you know what? Good list, and definitely I would say some stuff in there that's like definitely 2000s. Oh yeah. For me, I'd have to say, well, okay, my first choice, a little bit of a cheat because it's an artist that I've mentioned before, but I like I like his catalog from the 2000s. That would be I'm bringing Sting back. He had two albums that stuck out for me in the 2000s. Brand New Day and Sacred Love. Some great stuff in there. Um, One of the ones that sticks out at me from one of those albums, this really doesn't get mentioned, but it's just such a great song. It's called Stolen Car / Take Me Dancing. And it's great because in the song, he just weaves this tale of like a car thief stealing a car, and as he's driving away with it, coming up with these ideas in his head, like what could be the story behind this vehicle and behind the owner. So it's just really, it's just such a great song, which I kind of wish was more well known. Um, the title tracks are great. Just there's another one from these albums called Never Coming Home. About a guy who discovers that his wife has left him, and it's one of these things that it's like it just has this energy to it that you don't expect. So I mean that would definitely be my choice one. Um, my second, I'm gonna have to go with soundtrack, and I'm gonna have to go with Howard Shore's music for the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
it's
really good soundtrack.
yeah, no, it's just perfect. What I love about it is that there are so many different motifs, so many different sounds for like different things. Like the Hobbits and Hobbiton has this very light kind of whimsical little melody. Like it's the perfect Sunday morning, type of melody. I mean, it's just relaxing, very peaceful. There's this real like deep, thumping uh music that he uses for like the armies of orcs and stuff, um especially in Fellowship of the Ring when Saruman is just building his factories and tearing all the trees down and just like devastating the land around his tower, and then even just that triumphant main theme, the bum bum ba ba bum, it's just so perfect. It's just so epic. Like I can't even, I just I don't know, like words leave me. It's just so great. And hey, I mean, as kind of a what has to be mentioned is I love Enya's theme from Fellowship of the Rings, May It Be. And it's weird listening because the the way I have it on iTunes, it's May It Be, and then when the song kind of like dies down, it goes into the main theme of Lord of the Rings, and it's just so interesting how the two complement each other. You have Enya's quietly epic theme with, the big bombastic main theme, and it just works so perfectly. And it forms like this perfect little ending. kind of like Trish. Something that springs to mind is, Phantom of the Opera, Music of the Night.
Yes, of course I do.
How like you have Music of the Night and it's this very slow song, and then it dovetails into that harsh organ. It's almost like that. My third is an album. It's Discovery by Daft Punk. It's got great music. One of my personal, the one that's most well known is One More Time, but then another one that's a favorite of mine is it's called Digital Love. Like I think Trish, I've showed it to you. I think it's a great song. Half of it is instrumental, like electronic instrumental, but it's just such a cool song. What I really love about it is the fact that Daft Punk took the entire album, went to Japanese animator Leiji Matsumoto, he of Space Battleship Yamato and Galaxy Express and Captain Harlock fame, and did a music video for each song in the album, and then stitched it together in this sort of music opera called Interstellar 5555, and just weaves like a story together. And it's one of those things. It's like discovering that pretzels and chocolate can go together. Just his animation and their music, and it's just perfect. It's also like when Daft Punk did the music for Tron Legacy. It just works. Now, okay, anybody have, Trish, do you have any runners up? Like any honorable mentions?
Actually some of them are just kind of the typical 2000 songs, like NSYNC had some good ones in the 2000s, like Bye Bye Bye.
Yeah.
And
before Justin was like, wait, I can have a career without you guys?
Yep.
Later. Bye guys. See you later.
And even Britney Spears, Oops, I Did It Again. I mean, that's classic 2000 song.
Well, is that was that 2000s or was that 90s?
I think it was 2000s.
That was 2000s.
That was
Yeah.
Early 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That she's one of those that I think is just like sometimes I have trouble pinning down the exact time frame, especially because
it kind of all bleeds together after a while.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, look at the fact that around the time we also had Christina Aguilera, Jessica Simpson. You had that
Yep. I mean,
wave.
They had some good songs back then too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and I even like the song, or the Real Slim Shady by Eminem. That's such a classic 2000 song too.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me that just epitomizes 2000
Yeah.
music.
Well, and it's one of his, and it's one of his fun songs. It's one of his fun songs.
And his whole wardrobe and hairstyle and everything in that video too.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that's just so 2000s, and I hope we never see it again.
Now, was that was the one with the music video where he dressed up like Robin, right? Was it Real Slim Shady?
I don't remember all the video.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I just remember there was one video where he dressed up as Robin, and I forget who was it dressed up as Batman. But they get to a kid who's about to listen to the album, and he grabs a CD and points at the explicit tag, no, not for you. I just always thought that was funny. But anything else or?
I have one.
Okay.
Star Wars Episode 3 soundtrack.
Okay.
John Williams, in my opinion, is like wine. As he ages, he gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get how he gets better specifically, because I find that A New Hope soundtrack is one of the best things I've ever heard. But you listen to Episode 3 soundtrack just by itself, without the movie, because the dialogue just drowns it out sometimes. But if you just listen to the soundtrack by itself, it is brilliant. It beats, in my opinion, everything after Empire. Even better than somewhat of Empire. But yeah, it's just the overall chorus of it, and just how different it feels compared to the original trilogy soundtrack. That you know that once you listen to that soundtrack, this soundtrack was meant for this specific period of Star Wars. It was meant for the Clone Wars, and just the grandness of it fits the movie perfectly, and it serves it well. But just listening to it by itself, I think is better than it actually being in the movie.
Huh.
That's cool.
Interesting. You know what?
John, you can't lose with John Williams.
Oh yeah, no,
You can't.
definitely. I don't. I mean, hell, the movie you're watching might not be the best thing in the world, but if it has John Williams music, you're just like, that's okay. I'm here. You know, no, you don't need to talk. I'll just listen to the song in the back.
Literally.
I'm good. I'm here for that music. You know what? I think it does need Trish. You mentioned Christmas is All Around.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Love Actually soundtrack should get like an honorable mention, because that soundtrack is just like the use of songs. You know, the list of songs and their uses is just like it's just perfect. Like it was well placed. Not to mention that you have the iconic moment of Hugh Grant dancing to Jump for My Love. Like, I can't,
That's pretty
honestly,
funny.
I can't.
Every time I hear that song, that's all I can see is
Exactly.
Hugh Grant dancing around the
Yep.
Prime
And then
Minister's house, and yeah.
And then the aide coming in, and it's like, yes, can we move that? Can we move that appointment? And you gotta know that she probably was blabbing to the rest of the secretarial pool the next day. I saw the Prime Minister. He was dancing around to music. Oh, really? Oh, jeez. Oh man. Are there any other honorable mentions?
Do you have any?
Like, I feel well. I do. Oh wow. Okay. This is a bit of a Oh geez. This is a bit of a cheat because it was actually came out in '99, but there's a singer not as well known, but she went by the name Vitamin C, and she did have she had a song called Vacation, which was actually used in the first Pokemon movie. But it's a fun little song. It's a fun little song. Great to great to dance to. She actually had, I think it was her that she had she also had a graduation song, and I remember that it was something that my little sister wanted as her graduation song from junior high. Zion, do you got one more?
Yeah, I got the Danny Elfman theme for Spider-Man. See, people tend to not like that Spider-Man movies. I don't know why, because I find them to be the best. But that particular theme just sounds so heroic, and it's just, I think, the most heroic theme since John Williams' Superman theme. Now, once you hear it, you feel like, I gotta find someone to save. I gotta find someone to protect. And just hearing it throughout that entire movie just gets the entirety of what Spider-Man feels like, at least to me. That it's a selfless person that's out there only to save people, regardless of who they are and what trouble they're in. And in my opinion, that theme fits exactly what Spider-Man is supposed to be.
That's cool. I'll have to look that up. I don't know if I've ever heard that. Which Spider-Man movie is that? Is that the Tobey Maguire one?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, the music is cool. The music is cool. I do like. I actually do like the theme is cool, and I also like the. I also like the theme, the song that plays, the music that plays, as Peter's like trying to come up with designs for the costume.
Yeah.
Like, that's a cool. Yeah. Say what you will about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, the music is cool. With that note, we do. I gotta say, we're done with music. We gotta go to commercial. But you know what? When we come back, we are doing TV. So hopefully we should have some good stuff on TV. So
yeah.
You know what? We'll be back. We'll be back with Mark Who 42.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this. Ah, brave new world that has such putzes in it.
The Pull Bag is GCRN's comic book review and discussion-based podcast. Join me, your host, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we make our way through the comics we are reading. Inside the Pull Bag, you'll also find back-issue classics and origins episodes of how we got into comic reading. You can find the Pull Bag every Wednesday on iTunes and on www.geekcastradio.com. Make your great escape into comics and jump into the Pull Bag today.
Oh yes, but think of the fun.
Hello, this is Trev, out of Trev and Simon.
And this is Simon, out of the newly named Simon and Trev.
But you're listening to Mark Who 42.
You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Good afternoon, and I'd like to thank everybody for being here today on Oceanic Flight 815. We should be doing nonstop from Sydney to Los Angeles, so just sit back, have a nice flight. Our movie today will be Freddy Got Fingered, starring Tom Green. So just relax, nothing should happen, and we would also like to say hello to our VIP passenger, Mark Baumgarten. Hope you have a nice flight. Okay, I'm just kidding. This is Eduardo and Fryer. No, you're not on Oceanic Flight 815. You are listening to Mark Who 42 as we go through pop culture in the 2000s, 2000 to 2009. And you know what? We are on the TV portion. Yeah, that's right. What was on the Idiot Box in the 2000s? Or more specifically, what did we enjoy on the Idiot Box in the 2000s? So with that, Patricia, my love.
Yeah.
What's on your list?
Well, for the 2000s, well, it started in 2009, so it's like under the wire. But I gotta say Big Bang Theory. I know that not everybody's a big fan of that show anymore, and even I got a little annoyed with it at the end. But boy, did it start off well. It was so good, and most of the shows are still really good. Love watching the reruns.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I think that the first. How many seasons would you say were like the good seasons, like the fun seasons to watch?
Well, at least the first 5.
Yeah, no, that's true. What would you say is kind of the jump the shark moment, or like, okay, I'm not having fun anymore?
When they decided to start making fun of geeks instead of celebrating geekdom. I don't know. It's kind of was a slow transition.
Like, I think,
it seemed at first like they were, oh yeah, it's cool to be a geek, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, no, geeks are stupid, and they are awkward, and they don't know how to live real lives, and so we need to give them some female companions because females obviously can't be geeks. And also we're going to give you the hot girl who is the barometer of what is cool and what's not, because she obviously knows everything. That's when it started to sneak for me.
I think, and I would say, if you kind of look for a moment, I would say once Penny and Leonard were like together, like heading towards, once they were like together and they weren't breaking up again, I would say it was around that time that the show kind of started to lose it.
Yeah, but anyway, let's be positive.
Yeah. Happy thoughts, happy, joy. Different show. Okay, so what's number 2?
Number 2 for me would, let's see, probably NCIS. I like that show. I know not everybody's into procedurals, but and I never really had much interest in watching it. But my brother was a big fan, and he got me to watch an episode with him, and it was the last episode of, like, I think maybe it was the second season, and they killed off a main character, and it was shocking to me because I was watching this for the first time and I knew this person was a main character, and then all of a sudden they killed them off at the end of that show, and I'm just like, wait, did they just kill off a main character? Why would they do that? And so I got hooked that way. And now I've kind of lost interest in the show again because it's gone on for so long, and it's it gets to the point where it feels like it's the same show every week. But
And also we'll also think about how many cast members have just like said, "All right, I'm out."
yeah, most of the main people are gone now. So just Mark Harmon and Sean Murray. Those, I think, they're the only two original people left. So
Well, actually, it wasn't even Sean Murray. He wasn't even like in the first season or two, was
yeah,
he?
he was. Yes, he
Yeah.
was.
Huh. Because I don't think he was there in the beginning.
Yes, he was.
Really? Really? Because I always got the vibe he came in, like if he came in first
Nope.
season, he came in tail end.
No, he was
Huh.
there.
Okay. Huh. Well,
But
okay.
it was a
I
good
admit I
show,
was
and
wrong.
it's one of the most popular shows. It's always been one of the most popular, and yet it has never won any awards. Go figure.
Okay, so we're on number 3.
Number
correct?
3.
Yeah, number 3.
Okay, so my third choice is a show that was only on for 3 seasons, and it's kind of not too well known. I'm not even sure if any of you guys have ever really watched it or heard of it, but it was a little show called Relic Hunter. And
I never watched it. I'm familiar with it. It's got
Tia Carrere. Yeah. It was kind of she was kind of like an Indiana Jones, like a female Indiana Jones type person, looking for relics and everything and getting into trouble while doing it. And she's a professor at a university, so it was basically a female Indiana Jones. But I just really liked the show. It was cute, it was fun. It was nice to see a woman kick butt.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was one of those shows that was like syndicated, like on weekends, wasn't it?
That's the way I watched it.
Yeah, because it's like it feels like late '80s to about 2000s is when you had a bunch of these shows that were syndicated, and they would be shown on the weekends, like weekend afternoons, late morning. That was like the place you could see them. Like for me, it would be Superboy would be like in that category, but
Oh gosh.
that show was like late '80s, early '90s, so that doesn't count here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that one of your shows?
Yeah, no, that was not one of my shows. If we were still on the '80s and '90s, maybe I'd stick it in there. But yeah, that was not one of my shows. I think Hercules and Xena also came from that, so it was that era too. All right, but yeah, we're not talking about my shows yet. I always save myself for last. Zion.
Yeah.
All right, what's the first of your 3?
The first of my 3 is Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Samurai Jack. Like, in terms of cartoons, Samurai Jack is on a completely another level, both just art-wise and storytelling, specifically the storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird things that got quote unquote canceled, and everyone just kept asking it to come back and come back and come back. Then eventually it came back, and then everyone who watched was like, "Oh my god, we're actually going to get this thing finished." Like, I never truly understood the meaning of satisfaction until the last season of Samurai Jack, which came on like what, 3 years ago?
Wow.
I want to say closer to that, but yeah. No,
Yeah, about 3 years ago, and they finally killed Aku, because like the show got canceled in like what, 2007, 2008 ish.
Yeah, about that.
Somewhere along those lines, and we had to wait all the way up until 3 years ago for this thing to finally finish. So just seeing Aku to just die, it's like someone splashed a bit of water on you while you're in the desert. You're like, oh my god, finally. And just that feeling of satisfaction, I don't think that you would get if the show in its entirety wasn't just so damn good. It just kept poking at you, saying, hey, Jack is never going to get back. It's going to go on and on and on because Aku is just this ass. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just overall just an absolute amazing show.
Yeah, and it's one of those that I would put as an example of if you want to see like a U.S. production that feels like an anime, Samurai Jack would be one of those that I would point to.
100%.
You know. What's number 2?
Number 2 is the original Clone Wars cartoon. Ironically, it's made by the same guy that made Samurai Jack, Genndy Tartakovsky. But
Okay, so it's that cartoon. It's not the CGI one that they just finished.
no. See, like you can say it's the same thing because it's the Clone Wars, but it's not the same thing. It's so much so it's so different that in fact George Lucas hated Tartakovsky's version, and it's
Really?
ironic. Yes, he hates it for the reason I loved it. That in that series, the Jedi were like one-man armies. Like at the last episode, like you have Yoda and Mace Windu literally take on a whole battalion of droids and literally just not even using lightsabers, just their own fists. And like, as a kid, I was like, wow, these guys are so damn powerful that they're not even using lightsabers.
Wait, and Lucas hated that?
Lucas hated it because he saw it as because he never envisioned the Jedi to be that powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, and like I also liked it because when episode 3 came out, the series ended right before episode 3 came out, and it ended right where episode 3 started. So
so it ended with the invasion of Coruscant.
Yes. So you went into the movie, and everything made sense. Even why Grievous coughs, because people hate how Grievous coughs, but in the last episode, Mace Windu like force crushes Grievous innards and makes him like mangle, and he just starts coughing. So you go to the movie and you see him coughing, like, oh crap, this is a continuation.
Yeah. Well, okay. See, I had heard something about that. I had heard that, like, I knew that Grievous was a cyborg, and I had heard that, the coughing was because he had been injured in battle. So it's interesting that we actually see exactly what happened, like why the cough.
Yeah.
It's great to get some context to that.
In my opinion, is better than the other Clone Wars thing, but that's also good on its own right.
Yeah. And then that was your second, right? That
Yes.
was your second pick? Okay. What is your third?
My third is Teen Titans. And Teen Titans holds up.
And we're talking the first animated series. We're not talking Go.
No. We don't even speak about Go. Oof. I am so mad at that series. It's not even funny. But anyway, the reason why is because the original Teen Titans, in terms of quality, is up there with Samurai Jack. Like back when Cartoon Network was in its heyday, that Samurai Jack and Megas XLR and shows like that were at the pinnacle of viewings, right? You went to school and you talked about those handful of shows whenever they came on. And just like Samurai Jack, Teen Titans ended on a cliffhanger. And we still haven't got that cliffhanger answered to this day. And everyone that's my age still is begging for that series to just be finished because it was just so damn good.
Oh yeah, you know what? As someone who was on, who first thing he did on Twitter was join the Renew Young Justice and has been like Renew Gargoyles. I feel you on that one.
Yeah, really, like if you could bring back Young Justice, which in my opinion, didn't have the commercial success as Teen Titans did, you can bring back Teen Titans, especially since all of the voice actors that were on the original show are doing Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
And since that's popping off with its viewership, you have literally nothing to lose and everything to gain to bring this show back.
Well, and you could always bring it back. If not Cartoon Network, you could always bring it back HBO Max.
That too.
Since since HBO Max seems to be getting all that DC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So which is another show for another time. But yeah, no, definitely. For me, I would have to say my three. First off, I'm gonna go with, we joked about this at the beginning. I'm gonna go with the U.S. version of The Office. I will admit, much like Trish with Big Bang Theory, I think the show kind of lost it a little bit when Steve Carell left. But the first few seasons of the show, like up until Steve Carell left, were just gold.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it started off basically as a copy of the British version. But what I like is that it feels like the American version went and turned into its own thing. Like, it started aping the British version, but then was like, okay, let's do our own stories, let's do our own stuff. And one of the things I like about it, especially these first few seasons, is the lack of, like, big names. Like, the biggest name there arguably would be Steve Carell. And this was the show that made his fame. But it was also cool that it was a cast of unknowns, relative unknowns. So it kind of added to the whole realism of the series, that whole documentary realism, because it wasn't, oh, here's, Ray Romano pretending to run an office. I mean, okay, ironic because he showed up later as a guest star, but you get the idea. Trish,
Yes.
Do you think the series would have been as successful or worked as well if there had been like a bigger name, say as like Michael Scott? Like, what if they would have gotten Tim Allen as Michael Scott? Would that have worked?
No, I don't think so. I think it was perfectly cast, and
Yeah.
it was nice to see people that looked like normal people
Yeah, exactly.
on the show.
Exactly.
It wasn't a bunch of models, it wasn't a bunch of, really hot people, anything like that, And Steve Carell, this was, he'd done a few small things before he did this show, but this was his big break. And he was what, 40 or something, or almost
About
40 when
40, 40 or like
started.
late 30s.
Yeah, so he just was perfectly cast for that part. It was,
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah,
can't imagine
definitely.
anybody else being Michael Scott.
Honestly, yeah, and there are characters on that show that having done my Office time, there are characters on that show that I'm like, yep, like hey, I know, I never knew anybody who was exactly like Stan Lee, but I knew some people that were the types that like, okay, I'm gonna clock in, I'm gonna do my work, I'm gonna go home.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm familiar with that. Second one is one that, like with Relic Hunter, only lasted a couple of seasons, but it did have a cult following. Arrested Development. It is it's one of those shows that it feels like it was ahead of its time. It just had the humor was just so like, it's like one of those things where it's like the humor was just so that, yeah, I could understand why it took off, and I can also understand why it didn't. That it's like you had to be of a certain mindset to kind of get where it was coming from. Which is not to say that, anybody who didn't get it, it's like, no, I'm not ragging on anybody who didn't get it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, your brain has to be wired a certain way. And it was also just really subversive, like really just bite the hand that feeds and just rag on people, but in such a way that it's not overt. Like a time where one of the main characters is trying to escape from the police, and he sees a replica of the Pope Mobile and an actual version of a fighting vehicle that was going to be deployed overseas, and the narrator goes, so he chose the one that was actually bulletproof, and you see him getting into the replica Pope Mobile. So it's things like that. My third, I'm gonna cheat because it's two shows. It's two shows in one, but there's a reason that I put both. That would be Lost and Heroes. I think the reason I put them both in the same, kind of in the same choice is that both shows were these innovative, creative, original dramas, and both kind of lost their way a bit. And I think with both, the reason is the writer's strike. That it hit, if I remember correctly, the writer's strike hit like what? 04, 05, right?
Yeah, something
like around that time. And there were a bunch of seasons that, a bunch of TV shows that were affected that had like shortened seasons and had to like throw storylines away because they couldn't work on them. And I feel like both those shows, they got hit by that.
Yes.
That, they had these ideas where they wanted to go, but then they couldn't get their writers, and it was like they had to just quickly catch up and just kind of do a, run things around and go, okay, how do we do this? How do we, okay, we might not be able to do this storyline. What if we dovetail it and go into this? But, still both shows had just like, they were good shows, and especially early seasons, they have such great moments. I think of, and hey, you had some great guest stars in them. I think of George Takei in Heroes as Hito's dad.
Yes.
Especially with the video will, where it's like, don't open this safe. He opens the safe, there's another videotape. What did I just tell you? So yeah, that, so yeah, those, I mean, honestly, it's something. And, Lost, I gotta admit, I'm one of those probably very few people that I actually like the finale. I thought the final episode was a good finale. It closed the book, like it finished the story, and it gave, I mean, yeah, there were a few things dangling, but for the most part, the main thrust of it, they finished it. You can definitely say, you can put the end, and it works. Okay. So now,
I wish I had your point of view.
Well, you have my point of view in a lot of things. Okay, let's see. I think honorable mentions, Trish. What would you put under honorable mentions?
Well, Mark would kill us if we didn't say Doctor Who. So
yeah, no.
I mean, okay, it came back in
actually,
2005, right smack in the middle of the decade we're talking about. And you have to admit, I mean, we wouldn't be here right now if we didn't.
No, it wouldn't. And honestly, it is a continuation of the classic series, but you could also kind of call it, its own. It also has its own life.
Yeah.
And I think we do also have to mention something that.
Well, Eddie and you and I would never have gotten together if not for Doctor Who.
Oh, definitely. No, I believe me.
Combination of Doctor Who and Mark.
Doctor Who and Mark, yeah.
They're the responsible ones for us being together.
Yep. So hey, any family member listening to this, that's like, how is it that Ed is still just such a giant nerd, and how did he end up finding like an equally geeky wife? Blame Mark. It's all Mark's fault. And you can send a letter to the BBC and just say, why'd you bring that Doctor Who show back? So there you go. There's the two people you blame. Zion, what would be an honorable mention for you?
An honorable mention would be Ben 10.
Ben 10?
Yeah, a lot of people do not like this show for some reason, but I loved it. And it makes sense because it was based off of a comic that I can't remember the name of, that I've never read.
Wait, Dial H for Hero?
Yes, there we go.
Thank you. Okay. So, thank you. See, you know what? I never got into Ben 10, but when I saw what it was about, I'm like, are they basically just doing Dial H for Hero?
Yes. That's
it. Yeah. See, so yeah, Dial H for Hero. Yep. The old DC comic. Yeah.
Yeah, like the first initial series, at least in my opinion, was freaking amazing, and just the lore around the whole Omnitrix and him aging and seeing how all the aliens just got into the watch along with the movie, and everything along with that series. It's just, in my opinion, really, really underrated and good. People don't like it for some reason, but hey, I really loved it.
Yeah. Something that I think we did mention the return of Doctor Who, but I think something else that needs to be mentioned if we're doing honorable mentions, we gotta talk Torchwood.
I've never seen Torchwood. I saw one. I saw one episode. And then,
I think when Mark comes back, you better try to revoke your Whovian card.
I saw the Cyber Woman and said, I don't know if this is what I want to see.
Okay.
It's not for everybody. It's very dark. It's really, you know how with Doctor Who, Zion, you know how you can just watch episode after episode, binge watch, and it's just like, before you know it, 10 hours have passed and you still want more.
Yeah.
Torchwood, you're like, I don't know if I can handle another one. It's, it's really intense. And Captain Jack is not the Captain Jack from Doctor Who. He's not the lighthearted fun guy. He's a lot more serious. It's a lot, So I can see your point. I can see why it's not for everybody.
Yeah. I have issues, Captain Jack. This is PTSD, Captain Jack.
Eddie, I have a couple honorable mentions I need to mention, because if I don't mention them, I'm going to hear about it.
All right.
Well, I know this one started in '99, but that had its heyday in the 2000s, and that's Family Guy.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, you know what? Actually, no. Yes. You know what? No, that's perfect, especially because it was in the 2000s that it made its comeback.
Yes, because it was canceled, and then it became so popular on Adult Swim with the college crowd that they were able to bring it back, and look at what happened. I mean, it just became so incredibly popular.
It's still going on now, right?
Still going.
And it's still going. And then I also have to mention Supernatural, which has been going on forever.
We got a bunch of friends who, if we didn't mention Supernatural, they would be glaring at us.
Yep. And we also have to mention Firefly. It was one season, but it was right there at the beginning of 2000.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Well,
So
not to mention, there was such a fan clamoring. You still have people going, bring back Firefly, even though Joss Whedon was able to do a movie to kind of wrap things up.
And then a couple other comedies from the 2000s that were really iconic. 30 Rock.
Oh, yes.
Scrubs.
Yep.
And Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes. I remember I laughed at, and hey, that's where we got Bryan Cranston. I mean, he had worked before, but that was what put his name on the map. And so, hey, without Malcolm in the Middle, we wouldn't have Breaking Bad.
True.
Yep. So, for me, I think I would also, like an honorable mention, I would put in Venture Brothers. Another great, like, Cartoon Network series, which is still going. Of course, part of it is it takes time between seasons, but just still a great cartoon. It started off as a comedy parody, but, it's just blossomed. So this is the end of our look back at the decades. Hope you, we will be coming back to this. So, this is Jordan Fryer with my lovely wife, Patricia Fryer, and Zion Kiros. Just saying, hey, just remember, be careful of the smoke monster, and be sure to put Dwight's stapler in Jell-O.
Thanks for listening to Mark Who 42's Universe, with hosts Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Fryer, Zion Kiros, and Vicky Jakubowski. This program was produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please go to our Facebook page or email us at markwho42s.universe@gmail.com. You can listen to old shows at our website, markwho42.com, or even our YouTube page, markwho42. Mark Who 42's Universe, copyright 2022.